Hi everyone, I am Priya Kodkala. I'm a senior program manager on Power Automate product team, and my top focus areas are licensing, billing, and the topic of the hour, Power Automate Pay As You Go. Now, what is Pay As You Go? Why do you need it? This is a new way to pay for Power Apps and Power Automate licenses. So, one of the top feedback we heard from customers is that you need a flexible way to pay for Power Platform licenses, where customers don't have to worry about licensing upfront before they build and deploy their apps or flows. So, it's a flexible option. You only pay for what you use, and you'll only pay after you use it. Okay. It is also pretty easy to set up. So you'll go into Power Platform Admin Center, you create a new billing policy. Now here I'm giving a name to the billing policy and I'm selecting a resource group and a region for this billing policy. And once I select those, next I would look at environments and select environments where I'm connecting an Azure subscription to the billing policy. So as part of the billing policy, you will add an Azure subscription in the previous step. And now I'm selecting the environments and I'm adding those environments to the policy. Now I'll go review what I have added and everything looks good. So I'm going to create that billing policy. Now the two environments I selected are turned on with pay as you go. So once you turn on pay as you go at an environment level, all meters are turned on together. So there is no need for upfront licenses in pay as you go environment. Similarly, there are no paywalls to use any premium features. So once you have pay as you go, now you can start using Power Apps, Power Automate, and Dataverse. And for any usage that you did over a month, you will see charges in Azure subscription. Like you will see it in Azure portal. You can go view the billing details, and you can also pay within Azure portal. You can view detailed reports if you want to find out. I have a certain charge per meter, and I want to understand which flows cost this. So you can go download detailed reports in Power Platform Admin Center. Let's drill into Power Automate. So first section, let's talk about our prepaid licenses. Um, as you already know, these are already existing licenses. The first license we are talking about is per user plan. It's a $15 per user per month plan. You get unlimited access to create cloud flows with premium connectors. And the plan is a per user with attended RPA plan. It's $40 per user per month. You can create unlimited cloud flows with premium connectors and also use attended RPA for that $40. Now, what is RPA? RPA is it's also called desktop flows. It's robotic process automation. Power Automate is all about enabling everybody to automate in the organization using the right technology for the job. So let's say if I have an application that's a legacy application that doesn't have any APIs, so instead of migrating, I can actually use robotic process automation, which is I can have a recorder that records my actions. I would go through my tasks normally, and the recorder notes them all the keystrokes, the mouse clicks, and then creates a flow and plays it back over and over again. Um, when Now, what is attended RPA? So, if the user is logged in and kicking off the flow, that is attended RPA, and typically used when in call center cases, right? Like when somebody calls call center uh, and you're on the phone talking to the customer, take the customer details, put them into the legacy system, and kick off this RPA flow. That is fetching data from multiple applications while you are busy focusing on the high value task of solving the customer's problem instead of trying to switch between these applications. So that's the value of attended RPA. And attended RPA needs you to log in and be there uh, while the flow is running. Now let's talk about unattended. Unattended is an add-on. That means that it also needs a base license. So the base license is it either needs a per user with attended RPA or per flow plan. On top of it, you also need an add-on for running an RPA flow in unattended fashion. So what is unattended? So unattended bots typically perform batch operations that do not require human intervention. So in the attended RPA, you have to be logged in, but for unattended RPA, you don't need to be logged in. So you can have a batch of new client information coming in and a let's say it's coming in a spreadsheet, a unattended RPA bot executes the task, interact with the applications without any human interaction, and uploads the data into multiple systems. So that's when you would use an unattended add-on. And depending upon how many concurrent runs you want, you would purchase as many unattended bots. And each bot costs $150 per bot per month. The last one is the per flow plan. Per flow plan extremely valuable where your flow has multiple users. For example, your team uploads data into SharePoint and a background flow takes that info, stores it into Dataverse, processes it, and provides the result back to the users of your team. In this case, every user that is getting value from the flow because they are invoking the flow and they're also receiving the processed data, every user will need a license. So everybody from your team and the owner of the flow will need a license. And if there are many users, it can get very expensive. So instead of licensing every user, you have the per flow license where you license the flow itself. And once a flow has per flow license, it doesn't need any of the users to have a license. These are our subscription plans, also called as a prepaid plans. Now let's talk about pay-as-you-go plan, which is what we are announcing today. Uh, it is based upon flow run. So we have two meters. The first one is a per cloud flow or attended desktop flow run meter, and that is the $60 per cent, 60 cents per flow run meter. And the second one is per unattended RPA flow run, which is a $3 per flow run. So if you run a flow, either in either it's a cloud flow using premium connectors, or if it is an attended RPA flow, you will only see one charge, it's the 60 cents. But if you run it in unattended fashion, you'll see the $3 charge. The advantage of it is of the unattended especially is you can set up multiple bots to have concurrent runs. In prepaid model, you would need to purchase bots add-ons, right? So in postpaid, you do not need to do that. You just pay for the flow run. Most Azure subscription, like most developers and IT pros are already have Azure subscriptions and they can get started right away without having to wait for procurement and enterprise agreements. And that's one place where you can get started with pay as you go. It's also an easy way to get started because you don't have to take upfront decisions, no license commitments, purchasing or assigning those licenses. So you can start with pay as you go, and it's great for background processes that are typically running with service accounts, application users, or service principals. These automations, you need to figure out who the users are and either license every user appropriately or license the flow itself. In If a flow is running in pay as you go, you do not have to worry about it because the per flow run will take care of it. So the users no longer need any license of the flow. It's also great for flows which are seasonal and occasional and unpredictable. In those cases, instead of paying for every month, you can just pay for that month, like that month with Azure subscription, if the flow is on pay as you go. And another scenario is in large organizations, there are multiple departments and there is no easy way to split cost today. But if you use pay as you go, you can set up different Azure subscriptions and connect them to the environments so the costs are split automatically. Okay, so how does it work? So it just depends upon how many flow runs you have, right? Like in the first month, let's say you have two cloud flow runs. In the second month, the usage pattern changed. You have one cloud flow run, one attended flow run, and one unattended flow run. In the third month, you just have one cloud flow run. The charges are based upon flow run. So if the same user ran the flow multiple times, every flow run will be charged. And it doesn't matter, like we discussed, it doesn't matter who the users are, how many people have access to the flow. Every time a flow run, you will see a corresponding charge. So now when we see the charges, because Cloudflow and the attended flow has the exact same charge, that's why you will see that you will see the charges, like, I mean, you'll multiply two by the 60 cents for the second month, while the unattended flow run has a separate charge of the $3. Hey, so another interesting thing about pay as you go is that if you already have a prepaid license, like Power Automate per user, Power Automate per user with attended RPA, or per flow licenses, you will not see charges for the pay as you go because you already paid for it as part of your license, as long as you are within your license entitlements. And what does that mean? There are no paywalls in the pay as you go environment. That means that if you're trying to use a premium feature, you will not see any trial prompts. So any user can use any premium feature. And as part of your entitlements, let's say if you are a Office customer and if you are only using flows with standard connectors, so that is already included in your entitlement, so you won't see a separate charge. But let's say if you're an Office customer, but you're using an RPA flow in pay-as-you-go environment, um, because RPA is not included in the entitlement, you will see a charge for it. And it also, to make it easy for like development, we are like excluding test runs from charges. Also, if you have any failed runs, while failed runs are charged, if you resubmit the failed run from the portal, you will not see the charge for those. So if you have unattended add-ons, the prepaid unattended add-ons cannot be mixed with Paygo. So if you have unattended add-ons assigned to a Paygo environment, you're free to reassign them somewhere else, because every unattended flow run in an environment will see a charge. So let's walk through some users and their scenarios. In the first case, the first user has no license, pretty much a Power Automate free license. And Power Automate free license allows you to create standard flows. So if you have a standard flow, there won't be any charge. But if you have a premium Cloudflow, and let's say there are 10 runs for premium Cloudflow, and there are 5 attended runs and 5 unattended runs, since none of these flow runs are covered in the entitlements, you will see all of them built to Azure. For user B, who has a Power Automate per user license, they had 10 premium Cloudflare runs, and Power Automate per user license has an entitlement for Cloudflare runs, so that's why it is grayed out here. So these 10 runs will not be charged. But if the same user used RPA or unattended RPA, because those are not included in the entitlements, you will see them billed to the Azure subscription. Let's take a different user. This user has a Power Automate per user with attended RPA license, which means they can do cloud flows and also attended RPA flows. So those are not charged. But if they use unattended RPA, they will see those runs charged to Azure. The fourth customer is a Power Apps per user customer. So when you purchase a Power Apps license, a limited capabilities of Power Automate are included into that license. That means that if your flow is created to just support the Power App, uh, even if it triggers on the background data, right? Like the Power App updates some data, and that data update triggers a flow which is supporting the app. Those flows are called in context of the Power App, which means that the flow is talking to the same data sources as the Power App, or is directly getting triggered by the Power App itself. Let's say my Power App is updating a SQL DB, and whenever a new record is inserted in SQL DB, my flow runs. So now this flow is in context of the Power App. And if a flow is in context of the Power App and is using premium features, the Power Apps license covers that usage. But let's say if the flow is not directly talking to the data sources of the Power App, or is not triggered by the Power App but is using premium features, that flow is considered out of context of Power App and needs a separate Power Automate license, or it will be charged to Azure. So in this case, if user D had flow runs that are outside of the Power App context, all those runs are going to be charged to Azure subscription. So let's say if you have some more automated or scheduled flows which are not directly triggered from the Power App but are in context of the Power App, uh, to exclude them from getting charged in Paygo, you have a PowerShell command. Admins have a PowerShell command, and they can associate their flows to the Power App. So they are now they are associated and they are marked together. When do I choose pay as you go versus prepaid? Prepaid is best suited for businesses where you want predictable licensing, so the bill can change month on month, and you have users using flows for personal automations, because this will allow you to create unlimited flows, right? Like, and especially if you have a lot of runs, prepaid is suited. And pay as you go is suited for businesses that want the agility. And let's say if you have flows that do not have as many runs, they are seasonal, or if you're just getting started and you don't know your usage trends very well, that's when we would recommend you to go with pay as you go. So for most businesses, start with pay as you go, understand your usage patterns, build a sustained usage base, and then you can fine tune the licensing. So basically, you can say you can move some of the flows on prepaid, some of them in pay go, so that it is more economical. Okay, let's talk through some scenarios where it is. When should you choose pay go versus when should you choose prepaid? So let's take the first scenario. It's a claims flow. Employee submits claims and flow stores that data into Dataverse. This is an automated flow, and it is used by one user. Even though the people are submitting the claims there, they are not getting a feedback. So this flow is only going to be running and benefiting the one user who created, and it is a background flow. So, and in the first month, let's say they have 100 runs. In the second month, they have 25 runs. In the third month, they have 20 runs. If this flow was on prepaid license, uh, for the 3 months, they will be for the 3 months, they'll be charging like $15 per user license, and that's the $45 charge. And if the same flow was on Paygo, there were 145 runs across all the 3 months, and every run costs 60 cents because this is an automated cloud flow. So it's $87. So in this case, because it's just that one user, it's economical to go into prepaid, and the runs count as more. So it's better to go with a prepaid license. In the next example, you have a different flow where it is an employee health check. So employees need to complete a health check survey before attending any facility. It's an instant flow where the employee is triggering it, and that facility is used by 10 users. So this flow is also used by 10 users. Uh, to keep it easy, we kept the same pattern of runs consistent across those 3 months. And let's say if this flow is on prepaid, for the 3 months, you have to, and there are 10 users using that. So every user needs a license. And that 10 multiplied by $15, it makes it $450 for this particular flow in 3 months. And if this flow is on pay as you go, it's 145 runs, 60 cents per run, it's 87. So it is much more economical to be on pay go in this situation because there are multiple users using it, and the runs are high too. The third example is customer support. So employee enters customer information in desktop flow. Flow gets that data from legacy applications. This is an attended RPA flow, and this flow is shared to all the call center employees. So it is shared to 10 users now. And if we keep the same usage pattern, attended RPA license costs $40. So the 3 months, there are 10 users. Each user needs a $40 license. It's $1,200 for this flow over 3 months. If this flow was on Paygo, the 145 runs, and remember the 60 cents is the same price between attended RPA or Cloudflow, so it also costs the $87. Another example is supply chain management. So Flow manages inventory across fragmented IT systems, and this is using unattended RPA. And also, this flow can be triggered multiple times, even though it's the same user. So it is running in the context of the user, but you can have multiple concurrent runs. And because it has two concurrent runs, you need two bots. So it's the two bots. Each bot costs $150. And then you also need a base license for the owner here, and that base license has to be either attended RPA or per flow. So taking the cheaper option here, and multiplied by 3 months, it is $1,020. If I have the same flow on Paygo, it's 145 runs, $3 per each run, $435. So this makes the math so much easier. Pay as you go is very easy to understand. Let's take another example, which is a seasonal flow. HR department sends an annual reminder to everybody in the company to choose their health options, insurance options for the next year. It is a scheduled flow because it's annually, it's a reminder done annually. Um, and because it is annual, the first 2 months, they don't have any runs, but the third month, there are 40 runs. And if it is on a prepaid license, you will have to pay license for the months that you haven't used as well. So it is 3 months, $15 per user license is $45. But if it is Paygo, you're only paying for the 40 runs you used. So it's $24 and more economical to be on Paygo for this particular example. The last example is employee onboarding flow. This is an automation that provides necessary access to multiple systems anytime a new employee comes on board. It's an organizational flow. It is using a service account or app user or service principal. And since it is shared with a lot of users, uh, in this case, because it is shared with 1,000 users, it is much more economical to get a per flow license, right? So it is 3 months multiplied by $100 per flow license. It is $300 for the 3 months. And if it is Paygo, we are only paying for the 60 cents multiplied by 145 runs, it is $87. So depending upon the usage trend, you can move flows to be on Paygo or on prepaid licenses. How do I manage costs? Uh, One of the top questions asked when moving from a prepaid model to a Paygo model is how do I manage costs, because there is risk associated with unbounded costs. And this for years, Azure customers have been successfully dealing with this problem. They have leveraged power of Azure Cost Management with great visibility and granularity on their spending. So you can go to Azure Cost Management and you can see which meters are being charged, how much is it being charged, and you can also set up alerts on the scope on the budget, so you can say this particular environment or this particular meter can go up to $50,000, and if the spending goes above the $50,000, it will send me an email or text, or you can even make it take actions like run a script or call an API or etc. You can also do Azure tags, so you can figure out what is causing the cost. So that's how you can manage the cost. Okay, so like we discussed before, uh, because Power Automate, because pay as you go is at an environment level, all meters are turned on together. So once you have Paygo, you also have, if there is Power Apps usage, you will see the corresponding charges too. Power Apps meter has already been GA, it was announced in March. We see strong adoption already. Um, Basically, Power Apps has a per user plan, and it also has a per user per app plan. And pay as you go plan is pretty much a postpaid version of the per app plan. It is $10 per active user. So every time an active user is somebody who opens an app in a month. So if the same user opens that app multiple times in a month, you'll still see the same $10 charge. But if the user opens a different app or a different user opens this app, you will see a separate charge. And just like Power Automate add-ons, like the unattended add-on cannot be mixed with Paygo, even Power Apps per app capacity license, prepaid license cannot be mixed into a Paygo environment. So let's say in this example, the first month, there are two customers that came in and used the app. So it's $20. Second month, there are three users, $30. And the last month, it's only one user. So as the trends change, your cost also changes accordingly. The next 2 meters we have are Dataverse and Power Platform requests. So Dataverse meter is an overage meter. So anytime you create a Paygo environment, you get 1 GB database and 1 GB file capacity that is included for that environment. So even if you have a tenant level, like if your tenant already have extra space, the Paygo environment will not consume from it. Paygo comes with an entitlement already. And if the usage is above the entitlement, then for that overage, how much ever extra you have used, you will see a corresponding charge. So in the first month, let's say I used 1.5 GB of database and only 1 GB is the entitlement, I'm paying for the additional zero point 0.5 GB. Similarly, the second month, my usage is lower than my entitlement, so I don't end up paying anything. The third month, my usage is higher, and so whatever the excess, I'm paying for that too. The last meter is Power Platform Request Meter. It is only in public preview right now. So out of all the meters, uh, Power Apps Meter, Dataverse Meter, or GA, Power Platform Request Meter is in public preview, and Power Automate Meter is in public preview too. So, what is Power Platform Request Meter? We recently, in November, we increased the limit. So, as part of the license, for every license, there is a service protection limit. So, let's say I have a per user license. I I have a limit of 40K requests per user per day across all my flows. And we actually revised it. So previously it was 5K and we revised it to 40K. Previously per flow was like 15K and we revised it to 250K. So we, with that revision, most people don't have to worry about this at all. But in some cases, for high volume cases, let's say if a flow is used to create vaccine appointments during COVID time for by states, that flow inherently needs a lot of volume. So for such flows, you can still use pay-as-you-go environment. What you do is you pay for any additional request. So let's say 40K is your service protection limit. You use 10K that one day. It is under the limit, so you won't see any overages, and if your flow is on per flow and 250K is the limit, and you used 400K, because it is higher, you won't be throttled because you're in a pay-go environment. For whatever excess you use, the 150K additional request you use, you will see a corresponding charge on the Azure subscription. Similarly, the with Power Automate per like flow run meter, you have this 6,000 API calls included for every run. So as long as your run is below that, you won't see any overages. But if the run has additional requests, you will see a corresponding charge. The charge is also very nominal. This is like just looking at it. If you use 150,000 additional requests in a single day, you will pay $6 extra. As of July 2022, right now, we are not currently charging for PayGo Power Platform Request Meter, but we plan to start charging it early fall this year. So these are all the resources we have. We have the external docs updated. You'll see all the meters and the details. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the community. And also, please do give us feedback. Thank you for listening.